So, if we are headed to Thailand for the very first time, where should we go? That question has been asked to me so many times from friends, from family, from coworkers here in the States, to my friends in Europe, to my friends that I made in other countries. Um, I've had that question asked so many times. I want to give a full description of the thought processes and the things that you'll have to think about. But to give you kind of a baseline, let me talk about the trip that's planned with my two friends, two childhood friends who have never been to Thailand. So, the plan with them is they have 2.5 weeks. I think a lot of people who are traveling to Thailand either have 2 weeks or 3 weeks, typically on average, and they have 2.5, so that fits right in the middle. So the plan is leave the states. It's a long flight. They're gonna have possibly jet lag, other issues. They may between the three of us, we may have a few drinks on the plane, which I don't recommend typically. We might have some jet lag, and then we'll be flying into Bangkok, and we'll spend approximately 2 to 3 days, basically 3 days, 2 nights in Bangkok. Get acclimated, do the key highlight trips. We'll go to the King's Palace. We'll do the floating market. We'll go to the JJ Market, maybe one or two Buddhist temples, and do a little shopping and walk around town. Just get acclimated and get used to being in Thailand, or being in Thailand slash Bangkok. Now, once we leave Bangkok, we'll head up north, and we'll head up to probably the biggest and most popular Thai city in the Isan region called Chiang Mai. Now we'll be in Chiang Mai, and the way we've set it up is we've kind of set it up as an open plan. I'm not sure how much they're gonna want to stay in Chiang Mai, and Chiang Mai is different than, let's say, down south in Phuket, which is a beach resort area, right? So Chiang Mai has different things to offer, and so we'll spend as much or as little amount of time they want in Chiang Mai. So during the daytime, we'll do a lot of excursions. We'll bounce around. We'll go to day markets. In the evening, we'll go to night markets. We'll do a little bit of drinking. We'll go to some clubs. We'll do some shopping at the local markets and flea markets. We'll mingle with the locals, which is what Chiang Mai is all about. We don't get the true Thailand experience when we're in Bangkok, right? Bangkok is a metropolitan city. It's hot, dusty, congested, traffic, lots of shopping available, number of great restaurants, Michelin star restaurants, great um, venues to go to, but it's completely different than Chiang Mai. To get the true Thailand experience, being up in Chiang Mai allows that. So the plan is to go up to Chiang Mai, and we don't have a set number of days that we'll be in Chiang Mai. And once we've done everything, seen everything, traveled everywhere, eaten everything, bought the souvenirs we want to buy, mingle with the locals, got the full Thailand experience, then we'll take a flight and head down south to Phuket. Now, there's a ton of island resorts in the southern part of Thailand. We picked the biggest one and the most popular one, which is Phuket. And it'll be the best spot for us three, for those two individuals who have never been to Thailand. Lay on the beach, have Mai Tais, have, Chang Beer, relax, do a little bit of snorkeling and diving. Not, do much of anything other than just relax and have a good time before those two have to get on a flight and go back home. And so typically, it's I recommend for my friends and family to do the Chiang Mai first after Bangkok, and then do the Phuket last, because we're going to get a lot of exercise in Chiang Mai, and so it's kind of nice to finish off the trip in a beach resort area, rest up, enjoy relaxation, get some Thai massages, do some light drinking, and then you can get on a flight and go back home. And so that's the typical, what I call the standard itinerary for Thailand. Now, going back to kind of the beginning of this video, the reason why a lot of individuals don't spend all their time in Bangkok is number one, you don't get the true Thailand experience, and plus it's so congested heavy. It's just a big metropolitan town. Now, I have a lot of friends who visited or traveled to Thailand or even work and live in Bangkok, and they've never been anywhere else. Bangkok does offer everything. I mean, it's a city of minimum 10 to 12 million people at in a given time, with, if you can't incorporate the other surrounding areas, maybe 15 to 17 million people. And so anything and everything is available in Bangkok. And so for majority of the people, they're going to fly into Bangkok anyways. You know, they take a long flight from wherever they're from and they fly into Thailand. They're going to fly into Bangkok. And because it's a long flight, it's kind of nice to be able to fly into Bangkok, go to your hotel, your timeshare, resort, whatever you've set up, and have at least 2 or 3 days to acclimate yourself from the jet lag or just from settling down for the very first time in Thailand. Because if you've never been to an Asian country or you've never been to Thailand, it is quite a bit of a different experience than to going to some of these other countries that you might have visited. So you'll get into Bangkok, you get acclimated, you get rid of the jet lag, you'll be able to experience the key highlights, you know, like I said before, the King's Palace, the floating market, the Wat Pho, you know, the Buddhist temples, the big ones, and then, you know, the JJ market, and just kind of mingle around with the locals and do some local shopping. And so that'll be perfectly fine. Now, if your goals, and this is where, you know, it's important before you set up your itinerary, every person's different in what they want to accomplish on their vacation, right? So if you are not a diver, you are not somebody who likes to snorkel, you don't like to lay on the beach, you like fine dining, you like really fancy hotels, you want to do a lot of shopping and high-end shopping, yeah, Bangkok's a great place. So if you like being in the metropolitan city, and I know friends who, you know, travel and they only go to the big cities. They only go to Tokyo and Hong Kong and New York City and Bangkok, Thailand. And if that's what you're looking for, perfectly fine. If you want to spend your entire time eating and drinking and staying in fancy hotels and doing high-end shopping in Bangkok, Bangkok's a great place for that. But for other individuals who want to bounce around and see the rest of Thailand, figure out on your itinerary how many days you have. So a lot of individuals will have basically about 10 to 14 days, 2 weeks in Thailand, and other individuals are able to extend it out to 3 weeks. For myself personally, I feel that a 2 and a 3 week Thailand trip is quite different in terms of what you can get done and also at the pace that you're going at. I think, you know, 2 to 3 weeks is a huge time difference. Can you see everything in Thailand? Can you see a number of locations in 2 weeks in Thailand? You can, but man, you are huffing and puffing and moving pretty quickly. It's kind of like the same trip for people who do Europe in 2 weeks and people who do Japan in 2 weeks. If you want to see it all or do a lot, you're moving pretty quickly and you're huffing and puffing along the way. I think for most people, if they can kind of take a relaxed approach, especially since Thailand is always on Thai time, yeah, if you're on a 2 week vacation, not a problem coming to Thailand for 2 weeks, but just try not to incorporate so many destinations on your trip. So if you do Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and Phuket, and those are the only three you have, perfectly fine with that, you know? And then I'm not sure if you're the type of person who needs to have a set itinerary for every day of the week. But in Thailand, it's pretty easy to book hotels and book resorts and book transportation kind of on the fly. And who knows how much you'll love Chiang Mai or not. There's, I would say, more majority of the people who go to Chiang Mai love Chiang Mai. But if you're one of the few, or you know, third of the people who don't like Chiang Mai or are okay with it after 3 to 5 days, that's perfectly fine. But imagine if you have a set itinerary and you have 3, 4 locations set up for your 2 weeks, and you only have a few days, 3 to 5 days in Chiang Mai, and you haven't got through everything and you absolutely love Chiang Mai and you're like, ooh, I've already booked and set up my trip to Phuket, or I'm stopping in, Phuket and then going to Koh Tao for the Koh Phangan and Koh Tao for the full moon party. Um, you may be kind of disappointed in that. And so, if you're okay with kind of going on the fly, you can have a loose itinerary, have your hotel booked for Bangkok, but if you can kind of leave it open for the Chiang Mai portion, I think that might be beneficial for you. If you're the type that plan on returning, am okay with a structured or prefer a structured vacation, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to have open dates on your Chiang Mai trip, so you can go ahead and have a open jaw situation on that where you fly in and you've already planned on flying out to somewhere else on a set date. That's perfectly fine. But for the trip that I have upcoming with my two friends, I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna do open jaw. We're gonna go ahead and have no set number of days that we're gonna be in Chiang Mai. So flying to Chiang Mai, we'll try everything, do everything. We'll take our time. We're not going to be in a rush. And if they decide after 3 to 5 days that they're done with Chiang Mai and they don't want to do any more, or they don't want to do repeats of anything that we've already done, then we'll go ahead and hop on a flight, which is pretty easy to book another flight and go down to Phuket. Now, Phuket is the largest and most popular island resort. I mean, it is very touristy, but they have also all the amenities you want, right? So, whether you want budget hotels or high end hotels, they have it. Plenty of transportation, plenty of English speaking people, plenty of grocery stores and markets. Anything and everything you want to do in Phuket is there. Um, for those of us who want to finish off our trip by snorkeling, diving, laying on the beach, having some drinks, resting up before we get on that long flight to go back home, yeah, having the last portion of our vacation in a beach resort area is kind of nice. That's kind of why I put the beach resort portion of the trip at the end and put the walking, the hiking, walking around the city, Chiang Mai, in the middle part. Now, for those of you on the 2 week trip, you're still going to go. I know you're going to try to incorporate some nightlife, the partying. Not sure if you're going to a full moon party or half moon party in Koh Phangan or over in Koh Tao, but they're just a hop and a skip away from Phuket. It's not that hard to get there. Um, for the diving aspect, I do like diving more in Koh Tao than I do in Phuket or Koh Samui or in Krabi. But this is where before you set up your itinerary, take a sheet of paper and write down what type of vacation do you enjoy the most. Are you a free spirit and kind of go with the fly and will do anything and everything? Or is this vacation set up where it's a diving trip or diving and snorkeling trip? Is this a trip where, hey, it's kind of going to be like a lot of my Hawaii trips where I'm just going to lay on the beach every day? Are you the type that loves to go shopping? Do you like to do stuff during the day and then go out at night? I mean, those are kind of things that will dictate where you go and how many days you spend in those locations. So take a sheet of paper and write down all those things, and that will help you by writing that down and putting down on the paper exactly the type of activities and things that you're looking for. That will direct you toward what cities I want to go to, and of those cities that I'm going to, how long would I spend in those, right? And so, to give you a broader picture, the metropolitan city, of course, is going to be Bangkok. If you're going to be in a metropolitan type city with the beach and the nightlife aspect, then Phuket will be the largest beach city you'll go to. Now, if you want to do diving, snorkeling, then I would look at Phuket, Krabi, Koh Samui, Koh Samet, Koh Tao. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds more, but those are kind of the key highlights. Now, if you want more rural settings, and you don't want the hustle and bustle, you can't get more rural than places like Koh Samet, right? That island is a national preserve. They ferry in their water. They have very little electricity on the island. Not too many amenities, but if you want to get away from it all, you're not looking for a huge nightlife. You just want kind of more of a beach bum, not a lot of amenities, not a lot of people type situation, then Koh Samet is great. If you want to go where you can have a little bit of everything without it being overrun like Phuket is, then you can pick Koh Samui, Krabi, Koh Tao, as long as the half moon party and the full moon party are going on. But there's a lot of beach resort areas that aren't as populated and as touristy as Phuket. But you're also not going to get as many amenities, and you're also not going to have as many excursions and tourist activities to do. So keep that in mind. Now, I want to talk quite a bit about the Isan area. So North Thailand, those people up there, the Thai people that live in North Thailand, are called the Isan people in the Isan region. Completely different than Bangkok, and it is considerably different than down south or the middle parts of Thailand. The Isan region up North Thailand, it's still Thailand. They still love the king, but it just operates at a slower pace of life. There's more rural countryside. Even in the big cities of Chiang Mai, Udon Thani, Khon Kaen, and Chiang Rai, and all those places in north or northeastern, northwestern Thailand, things just operate and move differently, and you also get a different experience in Thailand. Now, some people like to get off the beaten path and go into more provinces that are more rural, and you can do that. I think for your initial first trip, it's good to go ahead and maybe have Chiang Mai as your home base. And you can get from Chiang Mai to Chiang Rai and all these other places fairly quickly in North Thailand. And then you can branch out and take these day excursions to the surrounding smaller cities in Chiang Mai, and that'll be a fun little thing to do. You can easily rent mopeds, by the way. And then if you're in Udon Thani, I tend to spend more time in Udon Thani just because it's more of a international work hub, and there's a lot of factories and businesses up there. And so I'm in Udon Thani, but to go from Udon Thani to Khon Kaen or vice versa is pretty easily done. I think the Uber and the Grab taxi ride is like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at most. You can take the bus too for dirt cheap. But to travel from Udon Thani to Khon Kaen, down to Udon Thani, fairly easy. There's been a number of times I've been already in Khon Kaen and went over to Udon Thani um, for a day trip, and then from Udon Thani, you can hit a number of other cities in those areas, and you get a different feel and a vibe of Thailand, and you get to kind of mingle with the locals. On my first few trips, first few years, I traveled around a lot in Isan to gain the full Thailand experience, eating the local foods, going to the local markets, meeting a lot of wonderful people. A little bit cooler at night, which is nice. And so I learned and gained a lot of valuable experience by being in North Thailand. You don't get as much experience, and you don't get the lay of the land, and you don't get that full Thai experience and ramp up your knowledge of Thailand as quickly if you're kind of stuck in Bangkok or Phuket. But those two places are wonderful places too. But going back to the beginning of my little video here, my two friends that I grew up with, all three of us, I'm going to actually be flying in a month earlier because I've got to work on my new condo I purchased. So I'm going to fly in a month earlier, get situated at my condo. Then I'm going to go ahead and, just because it's their first trip, I'm going to go to the Sunaboom airport, the Bangkok airport, meet them at the gate, help them exchange money downstairs. Maybe I'll do a video about the first day in Thailand. Okay, maybe that's a good aspect, and I'll kind of do the walkthrough with you guys first. But help them exchange money, get their SIM card, then go into Bangkok for 2-3 days. Then we'll head over to Chiang Mai, and then head down south to Phuket to lay on the beach and relax before they fly back home, and then I'll fly back to my condo and that'll be a trip. And so that's a little bit of about kind of structuring your first Thailand trip. If you have questions, feel free to message me, and I'll try to answer it the best I can. Everybody's so different, and everybody wants a different type of vacation. So I hate to give a blanket statement, saying that our trip that I set up with my two friends, lifelong friends, by going to Bangkok, going to Chiang Mai, and Phuket is the most appropriate or the most popular trip. I was very hesitant to say, hey, this is the standard itinerary that you should take because everybody's so different. Everybody's looking for a different experience and their goals are different on their vacation. So I don't want to gear toward that. But I think the first and foremost thing you have to do is kind of jot down what you're looking for on a vacation and what type of things you want to do. That will steer you toward the cities and the number of days that you're going to be in those areas. So feel free to message me and I'll try to help you out. And thanks and have a great day.